Testing 1, 2.
I'm being bad. I'm not.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Can I have you all please take a seat?
Did you figure out is it working?
We tested it works. They want to talk about this.
All right, should we sit down?
Yeah, let's just sit up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm sure we'll have a few stragglers come in. If you please would not mind scanning the QR code on the table in front of you and signing in, just letting us know that you're here and who you are. I'm Linda Birch. I'm the team leader here in the Salt Lake City Keller Williams office. We are proud to have the mayor, Jeff Silvestrini, mayor of Millcreek, and Mike Winder, the city manager, here today to present to you all, talk about the future of the city that's just right in our backyard, literally across the street. And additionally, if you like what you see today here, we would love to invite you to come back again next week. We are hosting a business planning clinic next week to get all of your goals and all of your dreams in line for the next year. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the mayor and the city manager up to tell us a little bit more about what's happening in Millcreek. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm Jeff Silvestrini. It's nice to see some familiar faces of folks that I know. Somebody, Sean said that this is the first time you see me not wearing gym clothes, but that's okay. We want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in Millcreek and what can you expect, how it might affect your business and ours. And we really value having connections with business community and realtor builder community. Mike and I are definitely interested in seeing economic development in our city, which has lacked that for a long time before the things that we've been able to do. So if you don't know Millcreek, it's a city of 65,000 people. It's actually, for a newly incorporated city, it's a pretty impressive thing to incorporate an area that large with that many people. We incorporated very end of 2016, so we've been in business as a city for 74 years almost.
And I gotta just point out some of the boundaries. People say, what a funny shaped city, but it's an amazing city despite its shape. This is the last piece of unincorporated Salt Lake County in this part of the valley. So you have Holiday that incorporated, of course. Murray's been there forever and has been annexing different pieces. It's funny, they annexed a Kmart here, we built a Walmart here, and then the Kmart's out of business, so haha.
Walmart rules.
Walmart. But then over here in Salt Lake City, years ago, under Mayor Ted Wilson, annexed Brickyard. So where you're sitting is actually in Salt Lake City, even though you're in an island. And then, of course, South Salt Lake there. This is 39 South, this is 7th East. But it's a very diverse city. Tell them about how...
Yeah, so a lot of people are surprised to know that we go from Millcreek Canyon in the mountains all the way to the Jordan River. So we have a section of the Jordan River. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do over there to make sure that we spread the wealth in Millcreek between east and west and address some of the concerns about access to recreational opportunities for the folks that live on the west side of our city. So, there aren't a lot of other cities in Salt Lake County that are as diverse as Millcreek. Salt Lake City obviously is. They have a clear east side, west side dynamic there. But a lot of other cities are either in the central part of the valley or they're in the eastern part of the valley, so they don't have that diversity. So that's both a challenge and an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity to be able to share different cultures and work on making everybody feel at home. It's a challenge in that there's definitely a socioeconomic divide east and west, and we do have issues in terms of making sure that we're spreading out the public's dollars to benefit all parts of our city and not just one.
So our thought today is we'll give you a little tour of Millcreek, highlighting just some of the different areas and some of the new exciting things that are going on in different parts of Millcreek. And then we'll end talking about our Millcreek City Center that's really nearby here.
And before we maybe do that, I just want to say, as you guys are probably more acutely aware than any other industry, we in Millcreek City government know that we have a housing shortage in our state. We know that the price of a median house in our community has become unattainable for a huge segment of the population, particularly younger folks or families that are just starting out, who really need the opportunity to get into home ownership and start building wealth, because we recognize that that's not only is it the American dream to own a home, but it's also a huge key of people getting ahead in life and winding up on the retirement side of the game with some equity, some value, and not having to just live on Social Security. So we are trying to do things creatively with the state and with the development community to encourage owner-occupied housing as we permit. We don't build housing generally, but we permit things, and we are looking turning our zoning code upside down. We're recodifying at the end of this year to try to make sure that we are doing the kinds of things that we know will encourage more affordable building. It's a supply and demand problem, but we also need to make sure that we are doing things that we can do as a government to lower red tape, to permit smaller lots, because the cost of land is one of maybe the most expensive thing about building new housing. We want to make sure that we are safeguarding and seeing remodeling and improvement with our existing housing stock, because in many cases that's the most affordable that we'll ever have. The new stuff always costs more, but we are also doing things to make sure that we're looking at increasing the stock of owner-occupied housing on smaller lots. And just as an example on that, at our last city council meeting, we just approved a project it's on basically 4/10 of an acre on 9th East. It was a single family house kind of in bad repair. We just changed the zoning. We have to take a look at our general plan now to see if we need to go farther, but we changed the zoning to residential multifamily and permitted under a development agreement a project that will bring 5 units of owner-occupied housing, and the builder was willing to commit to the density and was willing to commit to a deed restriction to make sure that it is owner-occupied for at least 5 years. We don't want to restrict it too far, but those units will be separately platted. They won't just be for rent. So we have permitted a ton of rental units, as you'll see here in a minute.
Yeah.
And we recognize the need for all types of housing, but we are really trying, as a city, to lean in to encourage builders to build owner-occupied product. I'm working with the state to try to unlock some of the barriers to condo development. It used to be that was a tool that could be used, but the liability, the problem getting insurance for those projects, as well as financing them with all of the construction defect cases that get brought. We're trying to crack the code on that to get more condos built, because that's a really affordable way to build owner-occupied housing, right? You can share walls and use less land than even townhomes, but we're looking at everything. So yeah. Let's roll.
All right, well, we'll start on the east side. Mayor mentioned the great diversity on Olympus Cove. We have some of the finest homes in the state, as this group knows well. But one fun fact is you may not know that Salt Lake's new Porsche dealership is under construction there. And that they've already broken ground on that unofficially. We'll break ground officially for it next month. But that was the old strong Porsche that was downtown. It is moving between Wasatch Boulevard and I-215. It's now Elway Porsche. And so we're super excited to have a new car dealership there on the East Bench.
This is on a piece of land, if you're familiar with it, between Wasatch Boulevard on the east and I-215 on the west, and it's been undeveloped for years. It was a concrete batch plant for a while, which was something the community really didn't want to see. For a while, UDOT was talking about building a big maintenance garage there, which I know that neighborhood would not like to see. We had some controversy about permitting this because people are concerned about a car dealer, but in terms of the real things that we heard from the neighborhood, and the public reaction to this was split almost 50-50. it made it hard for the city council to lean one way or the other on that basis. But this use actually will not only bring additional sales tax revenue to our city, which will fund parks and things like that, but it also satisfies the legitimate neighborhood concerns there up in that site about keeping the light low, because we're assisting them building an underground parking garage for new vehicle inventory, so they'll be able to turn the lights down at night, if not off. It's also an improvement that has lower height than some kind of a multifamily kind of a development. It's only going to be about 35 feet tall, which is about the same height as a house. Okay, and then people were concerned about traffic, and if housing were permitted in there, that would be like the highest traffic use. If some kind of retail development were put in there, that'd be the second most traffic. And then we're also concerned about the viability of the Olympus Hill Shopping Center across the street. If we put a bunch of new retail in that on the west side of the road, that would stress the shopping center. And maybe that'd be a good thing to see it redeveloped sooner, but that's what would happen. And if people were concerned about traffic, that would be the worst case scenario. So this is something that we're doing here that will improve our tax revenue and actually bring a nice amenity. People will be able to get down from Park City and all that.
And not only do we have the Porsche dealership, but just to the north of it, you'll have a little village center that Cowboy Partners is working through the approval processes with.
That's on a scale that won't create as much impact as if the whole site were developed that way. Plus, we didn't have anybody that was willing to build the whole site into a village center thing anyway.
Okay, so as we move from the Cove down this side of the freeway, in our Canyon Rim neighborhood and East Millcreek area, we have some exciting new things. We have just barely opened 10 new pickleball courts. They had 2 tennis courts there that were really underutilized, and so we were working on redeveloping those. And the initial plan was for 6 pickleball courts, and the mayor and council in their wisdom said, it's never cheaper to build it than it is now. And so we might as well knock out not just 6 or 8, but let's do 10. And they're already wildly popular. They're a little noisy, but they're shielded nicely because you have Canyon Rim Academy there and Canyon Rim Park here, and then a LDS church there. So you really it's a good place for pickleball, super popular. And then Skyline High School is the #1 comprehensive high school in the state of Utah. They topped the rankings there. We're super proud of the academic achievement there, and Grant School District is in the middle of doing a Skyline High rebuild right now. They're opening different pieces and phases. The auditorium phase will be the next phase. So we'll have Utah's #1 high school, both the newest high school and #1 in academics, right here in Millcreek.
So as realtors, you guys know that good schools are one of the things that people will look at when they're looking to purchase housing. And obviously this neighborhood is it's high priced, but it's a quality neighborhood. And I'm very happy as a mayor to have see the high school rebuilt, see that investment by our school district in the community, and to know that school will be there forever. And it's a magnet across the state, as Mike mentioned. It has an international baccalaureate program housed there, and students come there from all over state to attend this high school. So we're happy. I think that is kind of a sign of vibrance, and I'd much rather see that than a school closed.
So, fun fact, since it's election week, tell them about the Four Corners in Millcreek.
Okay, so a lot of people complain about the congressional apportionment in Utah.
Some would even call it gerrymandering.
We had a ballot measure about it. We had some lawsuits about it. We have a constitutional amendment about it. So when the legislature determined to override the Boundary Commission and apportion Utah's congressional districts, Millcreek is basically the 4 corners of congressional representation in Utah. All 4 of Utah's congressional districts meet in Utah. 3 of them at the intersection where the iceberg is at 9th East and 39th South, and then the 4th one ties in just a couple blocks east of that. So a lot of people a lot of my constituents are mad about that. They feel like, oh, we got disenfranchised. We hate the fact that the legislature did this. But as a person that is working with Congress to try to help solve problems in our city, I love it. We have 6 doors open to us in Washington.
Yeah, 4 representatives and 2 senators.
A lot of cities have 1 congressperson and 2 senators. We have all 4 congresspeople and 2 senators, so I like to say that Millcreek, Utah has more congressional representation than 15 states. Because you have states like Wyoming that only have 3 representatives, right? So that's opportunity for us when we go knocking on doors in Washington And we've been successful doing that. We got some direct appropriation money to help improve the parking lot in Neff's Canyon, which is right on our boundary, to help do some additional firefighting there. They're going to build a reservoir to hold water so that helicopters won't have to go all the way to Jordanelle or East Harley's Canyon, all that. Anyway, it's a firefighting tool, and it's also helping develop the area. And then if some of you may have sold properties in Olympus Cove, you know that we have a floodplain up there, which is weird to have a floodplain on the side of a mountain, but we do. And we're on a staged path to build a debris retention structure in Neff's Canyon to mitigate that and hopefully get FEMA to change their map, which will enable the residents in that community to not have to pay federal flood insurance if they want to refinance or sell their house, which is a huge expense with very little return on investment with what the payout is on the, versus the premiums that get charged. Make the neighborhood safer, and will also enable us to rebuild our fire station up on Jupiter, which is sorely in need of being done. So that's why it's valuable to have friends in Congress.
But we're excited because we really punch above our weight in grants as a new city. On the federal level, this is our secret weapon here, is the gerrymandering's working in our favor, candidly. And at the state and county level, it's helpful where Mayor Silvestrini's been president of the Utah League of Cities and Towns. He's been chair of the Wasatch Front Regional Council. It doesn't hurt that I'm a former legislator and have some friends on the Hill too. So we punch above our weight in Millcreek. It's kind of fun. Okay, in central Millcreek, we have, believe it or not, Utah's first hospital and one of the #1 robotics hospitals in the nation, and America's #1 teacher college. You know we're a college town here?
It's St. Mark's Hospital is Millcreek's largest employer, and they're on a path to even expand their campus. Some of you may know, they built a new tower in the front of the building. The city helped participate with that with a community reinvestment agency, where we basically have the concept there of a health campus that will have more clinics, and actually the hospital is even talking about expanding again and building a couple of new buildings on their present campus, either south of 39th, where they mostly are now, or they also own property on the north side of 39th South. So you may see us working with them someday to build a sky bridge across 39th South to make it easier for patients and employees to get back and forth around that campus. But we really value them as an employer, and my philosophy as mayor has basically been to support our businesses because they help generate tax revenue and help pay for the things that our residents want to see.
You see a lot of, again, as the mayor mentioned, it's our largest employment center, 2,000-ish. In that area, so you have people that want to live close to work, right? And so we have a lot of people that work at St. Mark's who want to live nearby. You also have people with healthcare needs that want to live by first-class hospital. Western Governors is an online school, as many of you know, and they have several 100,000 alumni now around the country, but their headquarters is here in Millcreek, and they were just telling us how they're the #1 teacher college in America. They're cranking out more teaching certificate, bachelor degrees than any other school in the country, which is pretty awesome. Okay, jumping to the far west, we're doing some exciting things with the Jordan River Trail and some transit-oriented development there by the river. People forget Millcreek they say, you go to Highland Drive, don't you? No, we go further. Well, State Street, right? No, for I-50, no, Jordan River. We meet up with West Valley and Taylorsville, right there, Jordan River.
So if any of you are involved in the apartment business, there's been a lot of development out there, and it's continuing in West Millcreek along Main Street from 39th South to about 44th South in our boundary with Murray. It's not a very big area, but there's a lot happening there. And there's also some fun commercial stuff. We had the front build a new climbing gym there. That's been like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. But that is a magnet for commercial stuff. It's filling in that. We saw this when we incorporated that this neighborhood was going to change. It's been a brownfield kind of semi-industrial area with a lot of used car places and all kinds of machine shop stuff. Great little tiny businesses, but basically they're going to be displaced by multifamily and other housing because this is the backbone of the track system, right?
Yeah, the tracks line right here. You have the Meadowbrook track station right there, not in our city, in South Salt Lake, just
right across the street from Millcreek.
And then the Murray North Station there in the Fire Clay District is just outside there. So it's really anchored by some good
So we have a
transit.
zone out there that allows mixed-use development with unlimited height, unlimited density. And the building community hasn't really taken advantage of the unlimited height yet in this area, but it's available to them. And it's one of the things that in terms of trying to address the housing crisis in Utah, that's a way to build cheaper is to go up higher. So, I mean, I'd like to see that happen there, but right now the only thing that's been suggested is that podium construction, about 6-story. But we have some exciting, innovative projects out there. This is Opus Green. This is a project that started out to be a for-rent townhome project. When we were entitling them, we pushed the developer to at least commit to plat 10% of their units for owner occupancy, so there could at least be some ownership in this area. And then, given the way that the market has changed with the increasing interest rates, and they've decided that the owners of this project have decided that they want to they'll make more if they do it all home ownership. So they platted the rest of the project, and they're selling all I'm trying to remember the number of units.
That'll be 117, I think.
Yeah, 117
And
units.
Micah Peters, the developer, says this is the #1 selling condo project right now, or townhome project in the state. They're right on Big Cottonwood Creek, this side of the fence. And we actually did a good partnership with the city where they developed an 1.5 acres of linear park there along Big Cottonwood Creek, including a bridge over to the Murray side to tap into some of the park space there. And then we're reimbursing them that out of the tax increment that they generate. So it's a good
we're
win-win for them.
reimbursing them for this little pocket park. And the bridge over the creek. The bridge over the creek, you can fish off of it, but it also is a great way for folks to get from the housing on this side, on the north side of Big Cottonwood Creek, to the Murray North Station, which is just a block or so away. And then Murray has a little pocket park on the other side of the creek, so having both of them together actually makes the green space there a lot more attractive and a lot more significant than it would be if it were
It's a 1 + 1 = 3 situation for open space. So down on the Jordan River, we've always been bugged. We just have a little segment in the Jordan River in Millcreek, but the Jordan River Parkway comes down from South Salt Lake, and as soon as it hits Millcreek, it jumps over to Taylorsville and runs down the Taylorsville side. And so we've been working closely with our partners at the Jordan River Commission in Salt Lake County to get the trail completed. In fact, I'm going to jump back a map so that you'll be able to park here in Millcreek, and you can come along the Jordan River Parkway here, cross the bridge, and then travel back on the Taylorsville side and do a nice half-mile loop. The trail part and the bridge is now completed, and the trailhead will be done in the next month or two. We'll have a grand opening in the spring, but you'll have some pavilions and parking lots, so it's an easy way to access the Jordan River Parkway.
And a boat launch.
And boat launch.
For small craft, obviously.
So people that are looking for access to outdoor recreation, but maybe they can't afford to live as close to the mountains, this is a really, really good option.
So this project is a recreational amenity for folks in the Central Valley and on the west side of our city. I mean, I live on the east side, but I've used the Jordan Trail before as well. It's a great amenity, and I think as Salt Lake Valley grows, there's going to be more and more interest in trying to clean this area up and make it be an engine for some economic development. It's a great place. If you've been to Boise or places like that where you see where a project like that can spur economic development with restaurants or bars along the way, some kind of thing to stop at and point of interest, we can do that here, okay, throughout the whole Salt Lake Valley. And there's another thing about this too, and that it's unfortunate, but this area of the Jordan River has just been a magnet for our unsheltered population who don't want to go to the shelters to reside there. And that's a burden on the taxpayer. It's a constant policing issue. And then, you really get down to a point where I don't believe it's humane to allow people to live in that kind of condition. I've been down there with our cops where, where we talk to people that are living down there. Obviously, they're trying to move them off, getting them away from the river because the conditions under which they end up with if they stay in a camp there too long are just completely unsanitary and gross because there are no bathroom facilities. And so this trail actually puts eyes on the area. It allows
it's easier for law
access for our
enforcement
cops,
access,
but also the biggest deterrent to to crime and this kind of stuff is moms with strollers, okay? I hate to say it, but it's
That's what they say.
just people being there and seeing stuff, and if you see something, say something, right, that kind of thing works. So this will clean the area up, and then that other issue is a whole other problem that we all as a state have to work on, the unsheltered population, but we are trying to do that, and we'll see if the new strategy works. But those of us that are affected by this problem, like me, that see the impact that of unsheltered population that has not only on the problems that those folks have struggling, okay? Some of them can be helped, some maybe others are more difficult, but some of them certainly can be helped. But this problem is a weight that it's an albatross around all of us in our community. We pay more for police as a result of this problem. We suffer our cars being broken into and our garages being raided by people searching for things to sell, to buy drugs, because of this problem. So addressing this, it really makes sense for all of us to want to solve this problem, because all of our quality of life will be better, including and especially those who are unsheltered.
Right. Thanks, Mayor. Let's jump back to the center of the city. We want to spend the rest of our presentation talking about our city center that's just underway across the street. We're really excited about all that is going into this. There's an earthquake fault line, a branch of the Wasatch Fault, that runs, here's 33rd South, just to get your bearing. Here's Highland Drive. Here's 13th East. You are here right now at Keller Williams. And there's a branch of the Wasatch Fault that runs right through here. And you can't build a habitable structure on the fault line, which is why Home Depot, for example, is on the street here with the parking lot in the back. Have you ever wondered on Highland Drive why it's a little backwards? That's why. But you can build plazas, open space, parking lots, other things on the... And then when we've talked to our geologists about, well, how safe are things near the fault line? And they say at that point it all becomes a question of soils. In fact, in some ways, you're worse off a mile, half mile away. Picture when you drop a pebble in the pond and the ripples get bigger. So you don't want to be on the fault line as a house, but once you're off that, then you're in pretty good shape as long as the building materials are of quality.
So the story about this, this isn't just some grand dream that the mayor of Millcreek had to build a Taj Mahal or anything. When we incorporated, there are people who would say that, believe it or not. When we incorporated, we saw development pressure in this area. And if those of you are familiar with this area, it is comprised, there was really actually very little actual housing in this area. It was a lot of 1950s retail, a lot of obsolete type buildings, some storage stuff in there. There was a condominium project that was in there. There's only substantial housing that actually the folks in there were happy to sell to us when we got around to that, because their building needed so much in the way of
We had a vacant
work.
Joann's down here, an auto shop.
So we saw redevelopment happening here. We had like 3 applications for pretty unremarkable 3-story walk-up apartment buildings right off the bat when we incorporated in this area, and so we just thought, what would it be if we put a plan to this? We had some creative residents, actually. There's a guy who's a developer, a resident of Millcreek, who came in and had an idea and said, what if we put a street down this area, because you can't build on it, and then we could have a planned development here and get something out of it for the city. We had people asking us when we did our first general plan, where is Millcreek's downtown? Where's the center of our city? And so try to...
There really wasn't, right?
Put all that stuff in a blender and mix it up. What we ultimately came out with was the idea of, since we can't build on this area and we want to put a plan to it and we want to get something out of it for the residents of Millcreek, what would it look like if the city bought this land under the earthquake fault, and we put some public amenity there and then saw how that might attract development. And we also approached the people that had applications for these 3 projects I talked to you about, and we asked them, I said, what would you be willing to do to help contribute to this vision? What could we do in terms of giving you additional density or some kind of thing to get you to play ball with us, to maybe put some design guidelines on your projects, make them look a little nicer, so it's not just stucco, it's going to be better materials, and what could you do to help us improve this area? And We also engaged with the neighborhood, particularly the Mount Air neighborhood, which is just across Highland. You know, it's this really actually remarkable neighborhood of you might call them veterans homes. You know, they're not huge places, but they're brick. They're pretty. The neighborhood is actually pretty well maintained. It's a pretty desirable place to live right now.
Big trees, it's gorgeous.
And we went to that neighborhood and said, come talk to us about, you know, would you be willing to, if we could fix the old lilac strip that, you know, I don't know if you remember from on Highland Drive, about 1,000-foot strip north of Walcott Optical up to that Pernod restaurant. Used to be, it's a strip of land that is a buffer between that neighborhood and Highland Drive that in some places was only 17 feet deep, some places up to 30, right? And it used to catch on fire all the time. You know, it was, people would park cars there and put for sale signs in the window and just leave them there on a Saturday. You know, it was really a problem that that neighborhood wanted to solve. And so we said, what if we could solve that problem as part of this? Would you be willing to consider, you know, more height on, you know, west of you on across Highland Drive? And we got pretty substantial buy-in of that. I mean, obviously not everybody, but we got pretty substantial buy-in that, yeah, that would be great. And those folks were living in this area that, as you know, it was a pretty high crime area in Millcreek. They felt the pressure of that. So getting that area redeveloped, some of them found that attractive. So we did get buy-in on that. We did get the developers. We gave them an additional 2 stories of height on the apartment buildings that are built over here at Cottonwood Highland, Cottonwood Richmond. Peg Development has one. Boyer Development is under construction with one. As a result of that, we gave some allowances with respect to open space. If a developer will contribute some money to the city to help us improve this park space that we're building, then they get a break on the open space because the open space is going to be there. The city's providing that. And then additionally, they bought that lilac strip. It used to be planted in lilacs, and the city, in partnership with them, has turned that into essentially a linear park, which is a gateway to our city and really an attractive area.
So here's the Mount Air streetscape, as it's called now. That these developers bought the property, gave it to the city. We improved it. We buried the power lines. They have park impact fees that have helped. But we also organized a city center overlay zone, which encapsulate what the mayor mentioned, where they were allowed greater height, but they had to do better building material, ground floor retail, kick in for park impact. And because we knew this, that city center overlay zone would help kick off the building boom, we were able to do a $20 million bond to build Millcreek Common, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the bond's being paid back by this community reinvestment area. So all the new residential coming in, the increment off that is what pays for all these amazing public improvements without going on the tax burden for a Millcreek resident, which is really something special. This is, by the way, the Westerly next to City Hall that's under construction right here across the street.
So we have about 11 projects that are entitled in this area since we kind of reinvented it.
In total, we have over 1,700 units entitled. This is Cottonwood on Highland, right across from the Mount Air streetscape. This is already open, and they're exceeding their expectations on the rents in that area.
In occupancy, it's filling up nicely.
Cottonwood, that's this one here that I just showed you. Cottonwood on Richmond is going to open here in the next few months.
That's the one that caught on fire in 2020. And
yeah, so it would have been first, but now it's second because of the fire. The Westerly I mentioned is under construction here. That'll open up summer of 26. Boyer project here, 200 units, fall of 26. And then others are in different levels of planning. Oh, Peg is working on brick lofts there too, which will open in that time. So for the next 18 months, you're going to see a lot open and then others get started. And it's going to be a huge daytime population boost to this area, which will be lovely.
So another aspect of this that it should go noted, I think, is that we've been willing to engage in public-private partnerships with some of the development community in this area. So one of the things that we knew we needed as a city, if we're going to build this city center magnet that will draw people in from all over our city, in fact, all over the state. We have people coming here to skate on Millcreek Common from all over the place. We were going to need more parking. And right now our parking is awful. We know that. We're in surface parking in a couple of different lots. And when we have a big events there, it really gets to be a mess. So we need a parking structure. And so does the apartment building that's going to wrap City Hall, we call it the Westerly, but on that parking structure will be wrapped by an 186-unit apartment building that will front on 13th East and then wrap around onto 33rd South, and that will front on Millcreek Common. It's mixed use on that side, so it's going to have more restaurants and retail on the ground floor, which will open onto Millcreek Common and make that even be a more attractive place to come to hang out,
So
basically.
you can't see the parking structure, but it's in the middle of the block.
But by partnering with Cottonwood Residential on the cost of the parking structure, it's a 450 stall parking structure. And people on social media, I'm aware of the fact that people say, like, what the heck are you building over there? It's ugly, it's terrible. Well, it's a parking structure, and you aren't even going to be able to see it when the development is done, because the apartment building will wrap it on.
It'll look like this.
Between City Hall and the apartment building, we'll wrap it on 3 sides. The only place you'll be able to see it is where you actually enter it off of Chambers Avenue, which is the street what I guess south of Crownburger, if you know where that is. That's also the street that our City Hall fronts onto on the north side. Anyway, by partnering with them, we're actually able to use shared parking theory so that the apartment residents will park there at night, but during the day it can be used when if they drive away and go to work. We hope some of them will take transit, but if they drive away and go to work, those spots will be available for people coming to City Hall to do business, people coming to Millcreek Common to do business, and by sharing the cost of that, both the developer and the city have saved a ton of money on.
You can appreciate when it's $30,000 a stall in a parking structure. If they don't have to build as many and we don't have to build as many because we're sharing, then we each save millions. It's been a good deal.
And we have other plans to do that with development when it happens on the east side of Millcreek Common.
Oh, yeah.
So we're already in discussions with some folks about building a boutique hotel there, like a Hyatt Place or something like that on Highland Drive, and some for ownership condominiums in that development. So that is a ways off, but that's what our imagination is leading.
Okay, so we're going to show you some before and after slides. These are kind of fun. So as the mayor mentioned, you had the ratty old condo building from the 60s, little office building from the 70s, the vacant Joanne, some drug houses. Here's Crownburger. You are here, right? You got it? Here's Harmon's. Okay, so this is April 2020. And then by March of 2024, it's totally changed. This shows it even better. Okay, so here's what it is. This is on 33rd South looking north. Again, you are over there. There's Crownburger. Cloud Gelato was here. Long Life Veggie House. The little condo, okay. And here's what it is now. So here's City Hall, Millcreek Common, the westerly under construction, the parking structure under construction. Crownburger's still there. Okay, I'm going to do that again. It's so fun. Okay, so here's before and after. And what's fun is we have people that have planned their city halls for 20 years, and we just barely incorporated 6-7 years ago. And they're like, you're doing what? You're doing what? So I like to joke that we're moving fast because our elected officials are new and don't know the government's supposed to be slow and bureaucratic yet. So,
Well, the one thing I'll say about it is, as a new city, we do not have the way things have always been done.
right.
So it gives you some freedom to be creative, not only with respect to things like this, but with respect to trying to design a city government that's efficient, that is customer-oriented, that is modern with modern computer software and access to all of our permitting and things like that can be done online, and so we are intentional about trying to be a modern city.
So here's a couple shots now looking from the air. So this is Millcreek Common looking northwest. Again, you are here, right? Here's our City Hall building, the westerly, the parking structure coming up. Millcreek Pizza House, our little splash pad, the skate loop. Here's where you rent your skates. Boyer's project's under construction. The 2 Cottonwood ones are going.
So I want to talk about City Hall for a minute. How many of you have been to Millcreek City Hall?
Wait, hold that thought. Let me show this. So here's looking.
All right.
Here's looking southeast now, but the same thing. Here's our city hall that the mayor's going to talk about. We got to talk about the common first, Mayor.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so the skate loop, we did we wanted to activate this all year round, and we were saying, how do we activate this in the winter time? And as we did our public outreach, people really wanted to do ice skating, and they'd seen the skate loops in Bountiful and Harriman, and said, let's do even bigger and better here. So now we have Utah's largest outdoor ice skating rink right there. That'll open for the season November 16th, November 15th. And we have all sorts of magic ice shows and different fun things there. In the summertime, it's a roller skating loop. In that adventure hub, we have all the skates up there, the ice skates, and the basement's the roller skates, and they just swap out every season. It's really fun. But the roller skating has exceeded our expectations on how popular, right?
Roller skating unites a lot of people, and actually a lot of ethnic, minority communities enjoy that. So it's actually made it even a better gathering place that with more diversity. And I'm really pleased to see that in terms of building community in our city. But it has been popular. We did weird things like that. Getting back to the city hall, we had that architects designed this kind of fin on the northeast corner of it, and somebody said, I don't know who gets credit, but what if that was a climbing wall? And our city motto is connected by nature. There's a lot of climbing in the area. People love it, and we put that climbing wall on there, and we've had 10,000 people use it since we opened it in March. That's 10,000 paid admissions at $7 a piece. Now, we're not trying to make money on it, but we are trying to offset the cost of delivering a public space to our community. And that's one of the things that Mike touched upon. So we issued 20,
we got a state grant to.
Yeah, we have a state grant for the skating loop of $500,000, another state grant for the climbing wall. So we're always out hungry looking for grant money because it leverages what we can do, and we don't have to charge our taxpayers for that directly, right? I mean, I'm sure they're paying taxes to the state some way, but the more we can land, more grant money we can land in our city, the better.
Well, and we have our city motto is connected by nature, right? From the Jordan River to Millcreek Canyon, and so we want to try and encourage that outdoor lifestyle, and that's one of the things we've done with the Common. This could have been the mayor because he has climbed the wall, and I've climbed it too. I told him, I said, when you're building this, you got to make a path easy enough for small children and city managers to climb. So this blue one, if you can climb a ladder, you can climb that. I've done it twice. And then it gets a little harder as you go around. Or you can just cheat like the mayor in Rainbow and do all the different colors.
How many people climbed a climbing wall someplace?
A climbing wall, yeah.
So people, one of the things people ask me all the time, especially other government folks who are like saying, well, you have a climbing wall? They say, what about the liability for that? Isn't the liability on that, excessive? And actually, the liability on a climbing wall is far less than the skate loop or a swimming pool. And cities do that kind of stuff all the time.
It's an auto belay system. By the way, the tallest they make auto belay systems is 65, 67 feet. So we went as tall as we could go, but we still had some room. So we said, let's do a Marty McFly clock tower on our town square using our logo. And that's been kind of a fun thing.
So the city hall, I'm going to talk about that now, Mike.
All right.
The city hall is a pretty innovative concept. It's when we did a survey for before we did Millcreek Common, we had Qualtrics do a survey of our community about the city center, and then we did another survey about City Hall. Because, like I said, I was as a new city, a new mayor, I was super concerned that we'd be criticized as a council if we went out and built a city hall right away. We had to do something. We rented space, as you may know, just a kitty corner from this building in the All a Dollar former thrift store shopping center. They're owned by Woodbury Corp. And they were very nice to give us pretty cheap rent. But when we wanted to extend our lease past 7 years, they said, no, we see what's happening here. We want to have our option to redevelop our property, so find someplace else. So they gave us 3 years to do that, which is not actually a lot of time in governmentville. But we had to do something. We did a survey. We found out from our community that they felt the city ultimately should own a city hall, not rent it. There really wasn't another great option to rent other space in Millcreek anyway. And so we decided to build it here. We originally, when we built this common, we weren't thinking about being a civic center, but it just started to make sense to put it next to this area so that it would be a true civic center and a gathering place. The other thing that our community told us about the city hall is that they said, we want space for the public. We don't want this just to be another government building.
As much as they love me and my staff, they don't just care about offices for bureaucrats, right?
And one of the things that I wanted to see, because as you know, we're a proud member of the Unified Police Department, that the Millcreek precinct of UPD was in a tilt-up concrete building on 39th South, just west of Highland Drive.
Old dentist
and
office.
It was terrible space. So no offense to the owners here, but terrible space. Like basically no windows and not enough space. So I wanted the police to be on Millcreek Common for a couple of reasons. Number one, I felt they were in the same building with the city, we'd have better interaction with police officers and get to know each other and build good culture for both organizations. And then secondly, I wanted to make sure, given all the crime that we'd had in this area before we built Millcreek Common and the potential for unsheltered folks to hang out there, I wanted cops on the common to reassure the public that this was a safe spot. So as it turns out now, because of the reorganization of the Unified Police Department, actually the headquarters of UPD is in our city hall because we had extra space, as is our precinct, which has about 60 officers that just work in Millcreek. But
it's been great having them there.
So to build a building for everyone, we gave that some thought. We actually got some help on that from Woodbury, and they said you should go look at the city hall in Lenexa, Kansas, which is a Kansas City suburb on the Kansas side. So we took a field trip there, and we also went to Rapid City because they have a
Main Street Square in Rapid City, South Dakota.
They have a skate loop and a splash pad, and so we got ideas from them, and then we thought we could improve upon what Lenexa's done. Lenexa basically just has a food court in the bottom, a food hall kind of thing on the bottom of their city hall.
But our thought too was government can be anywhere. It's a destination when you need a building permit, right? So why waste precious ground floor retail space on the common, no less, when that could be for incubating entrepreneurs and helping? And so this whole ground floor,
and not competing with private businesses too. I mean, we want to assist them, but we don't necessarily need to be competing with them. So anyway, what we decided to do with the help of a really smart lady whose name is Amy McConkey, if you know her, she's like a Millcreek legend. It was her idea to start the Millcreek Venture Out movie nights. We have a movie night in the summer from June through August. We have movies that move around the city to various schools or parks so that we get them spread out throughout our city. That's her invention, really, and so we
so she's
consulted
our
with
community
her.
life
Now
director.
we hired her because this is her dream job. But the ground floor of our city hall is a public market. The idea is that the exhibits there, if you will, or whatever the shops are or whatever activity will change out roughly every 6 weeks. So there's always something you can come back for and see something different. It's not going to be the same. The food court in Lenexa is the same, unless somebody goes out of business. But anyway, we're just about ready to open Utah's own market, which is local businesses,
the
local
holiday
products.
shops. It's open right now.
Yeah, it's a great place to go Christmas shopping if you want to do that.
Before that, we had Craft Lake City with a partnership with them. We've had farmers markets and harvest markets that spill onto the common.
Art market. One of the fun things we
Refugee
had
craft fair.
last year around New Year's, we had a pinball arcade downstairs. You could come in, pay $5, get a wristband, play pinball, old school pinball all day.
Pac-Man,
Right?
skee-ball. It was good.
I had a lot of government leaders playing pinball there. It was fun. But the point of it is to make this be a space where
Their number one, Mayor, was the Vinyl Revival, where they had the different record shops
Yeah,
going on.
records.
Anyway, it's really fun to see.
Anyway, it's well attended. It's been adopted by some things that we didn't even plan on. There's a bluegrass band that practices on every Monday night in the lobby.
That's where they jam.
Yeah, it's fun. And then the other thing we did is there really isn't a lot of great meeting space in Millcreek.
Yeah, so tell them about the top.
So we built basically a banquet hall on the top floor. There is a big banquet room that can seat 200 people for a sit-down meal. There's a full kitchen in the back. We have about 9 different caterers you can choose from, or you can bring your own. But they know the building, so it's
We call it the Grand View, and you get these gorgeous views of the mountains, and you got the common down below. Super popular for Christmas parties because you got the ice skating going and the Christmas lights, and then you're up above it all. We've had wedding receptions there. We've had high school class reunions.
So government entities can use it for free.
In fact, tonight, Wasatch Front Regional Council, for example, has a big planning event up there.
Nonprofit organizations get basically a big discount. We want to cover the cost of our staff being there, and then we rent it out, and we've had,
Yeah.
I don't think Keller Williams has been there.
Collier's had their holiday party there last year, so you guys need to get on the.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, you should come check it out.
That's right.
The other thing that the floor has, in addition to this big room, it has a smaller room that will seat about 50 people. Both of these rooms are equipped for a Zoom meeting. You know, they have, good sound and projection for that. So, anyway.
The public loves that in the mayor's Taj Mahal, it's not just a Taj Mahal. It's a public space, and there's something for them. And what's fun is things get layered, right? Like you could have a Granite School District teacher banquet going up there while the Rotary Club's meeting in our council chambers, while the East Millcreek Community Council's meeting in the Adventure
People are
Hub.
skating outside, and in the winter when the ice, they put this white dye in the ice when they lay it down so that it reflects the sun better and doesn't melt. But what that means is when they put colored light on that at night, it takes the color of those lights, and it's just it's magical to be up in that building, look out on it. It's really cool.
We got a grant to pay for the solar panel on the roof, and because we face east and have some shade structures on the outside, our HVAC's relatively low, and the solar provides 20 to 30% of our energy needs.
Yeah, it's really a green building. It has the screens on the outside are to kind of break up being a glass block, but also they're functional because they deflect the eastern sun, and help our cooling load. So we were actually, when you value engineer a building, right, it's like, oh my gosh, we're building this building in the most inflationary time that we've seen in our country in the last 30 years or more. And we did bond for this building and get like a 2% interest rate on the bond. So we hit the bond market exactly.
We got a 30-year at 2.14.
Yeah. So taxpayers, the taxpayers of today will not be the only ones paying for this building. People still, the people that use this building in 30 years will pay for it.
And the mayor has there's always some naysayers out there. There's always some cave people, citizens against virtually everything. But when this guy was up for re-election last year, unopposed, Councilmember Sylvia Catton, unopposed, Councilmember Sherry Jackson, one was 76%.
So either
and
we're
so that
stupid,
tells
we're
me
stupid
that
for doing it, or nobody else wants to do it.
either no one's as crazy or they like what's going on.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm checking that box.
We want to open up to questions, but I also want to reward those who sit up close. So in the ground floor, we have not only Millcreek Coffee Roasters, a little coffee shop, but we have Noodlehead by Provisions. Some of you know Tyler Stokes, the celebrity chef that does Provisions. He has a little Asian concept there. It's awesome. And then right here is our Millcreek Pizza House, which just won Best Restaurant in Millcreek. Awesome business, although they are closed on Mondays in November. But other than that, they're open for lunch and dinner. So $5 gift cards while supplies last. I'm going to pass them out while we start asking questions.
So our strategy on that, this is a high risk thing for any kind of a restaurateur to come into this. What's the business going to be like? All that. So what we decided to do is to give them extremely low rent. I mean, these are advertised with the request for proposal. They had to submit a bid, and they were evaluated by an independent committee and all that. So it was competitive. But we are sensitive about not competing with the private sector too much. So we gave them super low rent, and then the city gets a percentage of their sales. So it's low risk to them. They don't have it cuts their overhead down, and they only have to pay rent if they actually make money. So, that's been our strategy on that, to get a pizza place in there. We lured the normal ice cream truck from Trolley Square down here, and then we wanted a place that would sell hot chocolate or coffee for ice skating. So we got. And it was just fortuitous that we got Millcreek Coffee Roasters. They bid on it, and it got the successful application. Question.
I don't have Crown Burger gift cards.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, when this is built out, there'll be walking or bike paths throughout the whole development to be able to get from these various apartment buildings to the common easily. And then we are working with UTA on transit strategies, right? There's pretty robust bus service up and down 33rd now. Someday long-range plan, really long-range plan, I would say. We've talked with UDOT and UTA about a bus rapid transit line up and down 33rd to get you to the Meadowbrook track station. And then we're also working with Salt Lake City on not only more robust bus service going north to either the university or to Sugar House downtown, but there's also a possibility that the S line streetcar could be brought south. And we've done a study on that. The recommendation is that come down Highland. There used to be a streetcar on Highland. We're super sensitive about the impact of like a light rail or something like that would have on that whole corridor. If you look at like 7th East, where they've had to take a whole row of houses out, it really leaves the neighborhood a lot less cohesive if you have to do that. But we are looking at transit for the future. I mean, we know that the population of our state is still gonna double, you know, by 2050, 2060, right? At the current rate, we're adding a city the size of Millcreek almost every year, and you know, it's always been that 2/3 of that growth was our own kids and grandkids. It's shifted now where more than half of the growth, as you guys probably know in your business, is in migration from other states. As long as we continue to have you know, a killer economy, and I hope that doesn't change, we're going to be a magnet. Given our outdoor resources, we're going to be a magnet for people moving here. So as local leaders, we need to plan for this growth. We need to, you know, you guys, the building community will build it. You guys will market and sell it. But government needs to basically get out of the way to make sure that it can happen. When I say get out of the way, I just mean not from a regulatory standpoint, but government's role is to plan it, right? And that transportation element is part of the planning that we're doing. So will there be some street widening? Maybe. It's minor given what's being built, but we do have plans to put some bike lanes on Highland Drive and make it easier to get around that way. And then, you know,
we're working on a most.
And so buses aren't as sexy as like rail. You know, a fixed skyway transit is more sexy. It does generally tend to spur more development around it because maybe it's more predictable. But you know, buses are cheap and you know, flexible, and frankly, that's going to be our main strategy.
But we are working also on a bike lane on 39th South with our other neighboring city partners, and it runs through 4 congressional districts. So we're getting some good interest from our DC friend.
Question in regard to the housing shortage. Has there been any discussion about loosening restrictions for zoning for ADUs?
Yeah, so Millcreek's already ahead of the curve on that, okay? And we have allowed, when we passed our ordinance, the state mandated that everybody allow internal. We were already working on an ordinance that allowed both internal and external. So both internal ADUs and external ADUs are permitted in Millcreek. The thing that we're looking at now is like, given our experience with them, what are the barriers to them to get more of them? Because, and that this is a balancing act. You know, when we had the public discussions about ADUs, people who live in existing neighborhoods are like, you know, super concerned about more density or more on-street parking is really more than anything. And so we have tried to require at least 1 additional parking spot for that. It's tough, and that's a barrier. That can make having an ADU more expensive. But we are trying to look at things like what's the right strategy. Some cities require that they be separately metered. Well, why do they have to be separately metered? You know, I mean, that's an expense that you wouldn't necessarily have to incur. But that's a strategy, and you know, my administration supports it.
Yeah.
So just kind of with the urban sprawl of like Sugar House and this, just curious with supporting kind of smaller businesses, because along 33rd, along 39th, we have all those kind of post-World War II buildings and so forth. Maybe what is maybe the plan in place for small businesses, the growth, people coming in from Park City, you know, down to the common area, up in the Canyon Rim area? Just kind of curious, those growth.
I can talk this as my economic
Go ahead.
development.
He's the economic development director too. But.
Yeah, we wear a lot of hats. We've really made a conscious effort in Millcreek to try to help our local businesses. So for example, I was showing you the before and after. One of the businesses there on Highland Drive on 33rd South was Plow Gelato. We worked not just to write them a check and run them out of business, but to actually help them relocate. So now they're on Highland Drive and they're doing better than ever in their business. With the shops here, we've tried to curate local people like Provisions. Okay, here's a way for them to expand. And Millcreek Pizza House is a local mom and pop owned. As we're talking on the east side of the common with Fine Art and Art Gallery, for example, that they need a new building, we're trying to include them in our plans so that as this redevelops, they could move in. we would never want Crown Burger to leave the market, so if that block ever redevelops, we would love to find a way for them to stay on the block and so finding new
Yeah,
places
the other
for
thing
all
I'll
the
just tell you,
businesses
too,
is
in
something that we're always trying to
We've
do.
had applications, we had a property owner that came to us and said that they wanted to put a Chick-fil-A in, and we're going like, no.
My economic development
Not
hat
that
would love
I
the
don't
sales
necessarily like to eat
tax,
Chick-fil-A
but
once in a
it'd blow
while,
up
but
the city,
drive-in,
right?
we don't want any more drive-ins, drive-throughs, other than Crown Burger, they're kind of grandfathered in. But the traffic kind of problem that they've had with Sugar House and that is not worth it. And we are focused on trying to support local mom and pop businesses and discourage chain stuff.
And we do have a robust Millcreek Business Council instead of a Chamber of Commerce. Every licensed business in Millcreek is an automatic member of the Millcreek Business Council. And we have different activities and trainings to help support them. Mark was involved for a long time, I know, and we do a lot of good things. And so we really do want to retain our local businesses. Great question.
My question is about the Olympus Cove floodplain. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, like when that process is potentially going to come to fruition so that the owners that live there can get rid of that insurance? I just have somebody that's been keeping an eye on a home up there, and it's just been sitting because of that issue, and it's been
Right.
dropping in price. So I would love
Right.
to be able to explain more to them about
Yeah,
what's
so
going
for the
on.
benefit of everybody, FEMA revised their floodplain. They started doing that, but it became effective really about the time that we became a city, so about 7 years ago. They changed the boundary of the floodplain. There was one up there before, but they also put some draconian provisions in play where you're not allowed to spend more than 50% of the value of the property on any kind of remodel or reconstruction of a property. So that really harshes let me say this, that's a neighborhood that has a ton of like really remarkable mid-century architecture, and that's something that we're working on trying to preserve, protect through historic preservation in a voluntary way, right? And it's not a mandate or anything like that, but we do recognize the value of that. But there's been a lot of scrape and rebuilding going on up there, and frankly, that kind of development is good for the city. But people are restricted from doing that, and frankly, it's not good for a neighborhood to have limitations on remodeling and things like that. As you know, that's a recipe for if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So the timeline, in response to your question, it's going to be a while still. We have been working hard with our federal delegation about getting funding for that. We just received word. We have been applying to FEMA for what's called a BRIC grant, and who knows what that acronym stands for, but it's a mitigation funding. We got a $15 million bond to help build a debris retention structure up there, and we are right now engineering it. Okay, we got a congressional appropriation courtesy of Representative John Curtis for $2.5 million to help do the engineering for that project. That's like an earmark or direct appropriation thing. That's what, when we go to Washington and visit all those guys, that's what kind of thing we're talking about. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the debris retention structure built, and it's probably 3 years away from starting. It's still a long process, and I wish that I could speed it up, but we're dealing with the federal government. We have complications where we're going to be building this on Forest Service land. So we have to work with that agency, we have to work with FEMA, and then we have to find the funding for it. And $15 million sounds great right now, but by the time we build that thing, who knows what that money will be worth at the time that we do that. So that's a priority for us to do it, and we have made progress on it, but it's still going to be a while. So by the end of the year. Yeah. I have a golden shovel. I'll go turn the first dirt, but
We move at Millcreek speed when it's all on us, but when you get these other agencies involved, we're a little bit there. But the good news is we've made great progress even on the financial side over the last couple of years, and we're not going to rest till it's solved.
yeah.
Other questions? Yeah, Mark.
I live in Millcreek. I love Millcreek. But traffic's got bad. It's on my streets, residential. I have tons of new cars up and down the road. And it used to be I'd see a lot of bikers and runners on there. And now we're not seeing anybody because it's just full of cars. So how are you guys handling just the infill traffic in residential neighborhoods?
Well, we're going to slow it down. And that sounds counterintuitive, but it makes it safer. It makes it easier for people to ride bikes and get cars off the road. I mean, I hate to tell Utahns this, but you know, we're growing at an incredible rate. And when communities like Salt Lake grow, there's more traffic and there's more, you know, it takes longer to get to places. I mean, one of the great things about living here has always been you can go to a movie downtown and leave 20 minutes from Millcreek and find a place to park and get to the theater before even the trailers start running, right? But that may not always be the same as we grow, and I can't always change that. But what I can say to folks that are concerned about the density that we are building in the urban core, and we're right next to Salt Lake City, right? So we're not too far from that. Is that if we don't build density close in, we will actually have worse traffic and worse congestion and worse air quality. And the story I like to tell about that is, you know, I worked downtown for 37 years practicing law. And in my law firm, there were always 5 or 6 people who lived in Sandy or Draper, and they would drive to work, right, as we do. And they couldn't stand driving on I-15. So they drove down 9th East. They drove down 13th East. They drove down Wasatch Boulevard. So if we allow sprawl to continue, and I say, we're not going to build anything more around your neighborhood so that you don't have more traffic, you will have more traffic. It will be just as bad or worse, and people will actually be driving farther than if they lived in a place in Millcreek City Center to get downtown. So, like I said, that's a planning thing. It sounds counterintuitive. We are going to have to accept some change. And, you know, and the other thing we're going to see, you know, like with ADUs and things like that, we're going to try to have people find, you know, other ways to park cars. And I don't want this to become, I don't want to offend anybody here, but I don't want it to be Kearns where there are 10 cars parked on the people's front yards, right? But there may be secondary driveways where, you know, where a house has 2 driveways so that you can park an extra car for the people that live in the ADU in your backyard. And that type of density is kind of soft density, because you don't really see it as much as you do a big old apartment building. But I don't have an answer for you, because I'll just say that every city, I mean, we have good bones in Salt Lake City. Our streets are nice and wide generally, you know, and so we can handle a lot more than maybe another place, an older, you know, eastern city. But as you grow, there's more people. Yeah. You know?
It's tough. Well, what's hard is, well, it's like the old marketing ad. You can have empty roads, you can have great store and retail to go to close by, and you can have affordable houses for your kids. You can maybe get 2 out of 3, but you're not going to get all 3, right? Because there's trade-offs when you squeeze.
Just think about how much better the food has gotten.
But you know, we do interesting things too. When the mayor says slower is better, another case study is Highland Drive. Highland Drive used to be a 4-lane road with 2 lanes in each direction. We worked to change that over the last few years, so now it's a 3-lane road, a lane in each direction with a turn lane. Remember the old days, you'd be going down Highland Drive and someone would slam on their brake to go to Crown Burger and you'd be stuck, or the bus would stop and you'd be stuck. Now it flows a lot better, so even though the miles per hour is slower,
so
we see far fewer accidents.
The data shows that the
number
of rear-end collisions has decreased in the 3 years that we've done that there are fewer collisions from people turning left and turning right off Highland, because there was no space to turn right either. So yeah, I mean, slowing the traffic.
And the local businesses do better because people aren't just zooming past them; they actually see it. Anyway, traffic's an interesting dilemma.
I don't have a magical answer to your concern.
Well, you know, we'll just talk to you about next election and don't.
There you go.
There you go.
If I even run, right?
Yeah, that's right.
If I even run.
Citizens against virtually everything, cave people. And did you notice he said Kearns, not West Valley? Because as the former West Valley mayor, that'd be fighting words, you know. Hey, we have time for probably one more question, then the mayor needs to get to his next appointment.
So I was just going to ask,
here we go.
had mentioned, and I want to commend you on what you guys have already pulled off in 6 years. It's tremendous. I'm just in the industry. I live in Riverton, South Jordan area, but wonderful work. Thank you. You mentioned a small project at the beginning of the meeting of like a 4/10 of an acre housing development that you guys are in the middle of approving. Is that going vertical or is that?
It's kind of a
Do you know?
townhome project.
Townhome project?
Yeah, it was a single-family lot on 9th East, and it's going to be a townhome project. We did, you know, the owner of the project is probably a little mad because in the compromise, getting the neighborhood on board and actually making the space be a little more livable and having a garage that you could actually park 2 vehicles in rather than, we cut their density from 6 units to 5 units. It's still 5 units on a 4/10 of an acre, and yeah, so they'll be townhome looking project.
But there are infill opportunities in Millcreek. We get people coming to us all the time. Hey, what about this flag lot? The easy stuff's all done, right? So we're down to unique infield. We got to get creative. We do have an RFP out that went out Friday for someone to develop condos on Millcreek Common, owner-occupied condos. And so we're always trying to be innovative and look to increase home ownership and the housing stock.
And then one thing I'll say if we're closing or whatever, this area up here, we have phase 2 of Millcreek Common that's going to be coming. That's basically going to be, it'll double the size of it. Once the parking structure is complete, we can move that parking off there. We have, like Layton Construction has a construction yard there that's actually on city property right now. They're building our parking structure, so we don't really mind it too much. But we are going to build a more green part of Millcreek Common.
Here you go, Mayor.
Okay, so
From a different presentation.
we already own the land for this, and we have already we've been successful in accumulating about $10 million of the 11 to 13 million it's going to cost. It will have a water feature through it that kids can play in, because I see the kids playing on this splash pad out here and they love it. So that kind of free play amenity, it's going to have I don't know if the old timers remember that there used to be a putt-putt golf course called Dottie's on the kind of like on 33rd just east of Highland. We're going to replicate that with a Millcreek's only golf course, which will be putt-putt golf course.
But you know, we're paying high school kids anyway to give out roller skates and
then
side
there'll be
climbing
a-
liabilities. Why not do balls and
And there'll be a
putters, right?
skateboard course in there too that because we don't have one of those either in our city. So this area will be even more of an attractive place, I think, for folks that live in the area, in the housing that we're entitling around here.
We're cobbling together the money. Like I said, it's from a different presentation. Okay, here's the fly-through. We'll give you this in closing. So this little part's called the tree house, where you can hang out. You can see the little splash creek running there. We have a moose playground. These are still early concepts, but we're going to have a lot of aspens in there, so you actually feel like you're in the woods. Millcreek Common Phase 1 is the European Plaza with the skate loop, and this is more green, and you're in the woods. We didn't want it to just be a dog park for all the apartments and condos around it. We don't have a skate park in the city, so you'll have this fun skate canyon that goes around as well. Like I say, the tree house in the middle where you can people watch. And we found with skating, there's 2 types of people, those who love to skate and those who like to people watch. And skateboarding is the same way, right? Anyway.
So once again, because we're getting this grant money assembled, at this point, we have about, what is it, Mike? We're thinking of using about $2 million from the city's general fund, which is what taxpayers pay into. The rest of it will be grants, including a grant from National Park Service. We just got word that we're getting $1.5 million from the Tourist Recreation Fund that Salt Lake County collects from rental cars and hotels and things like that. So we are the kings of grant writing and grant finding to fund things. Not only these kinds of projects, but a lot of our major road projects are all grant funded, and those grants come from tax dollars that are dedicated for fixing roads, like your federal gas tax. All that kind of money is basically, you have to have a merit-based application, and that's shovel ready to get that kind of money. So that's our strategy has been to increase our reach with those kinds of dollars that are available. That would, if they weren't spent in Millcreek, they'd be spending. And we're at Riverton.
So thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Speaking of infill projects, we have Cole West here, formerly CW Urban. Tara has provided all of us lunch. And Tara, do you want to come up and tell us about Cole West project in Millcreek? And thank you, Mayor Silvestrini.
Thank you.
Mr. Winder, that great presentation. Please come tell us what we can sell for you.
So I'm gonna have, can everyone hear me so I don't have to do that? Oh my God. Now you're gonna see that I'm shaking. Anyway, I need one of these as a cheat sheet. Okay. Anyways, I'm Tara Horton. I am with Cole West, formerly CW Urban. So a lot of you may know CW Urban, have seen us around town. We do a lot of infill stuff. We recently rebranded to Cole West. We were CW Group owned Cole West in the south, in St. George, and CW Urban up here north. Figured for brand's sake, you guys know how important branding is, especially right now. So we figured for branding's sake, we would rebrand as Cole West, so we could be unified across the state. So we are the same people. I am the same agent that I was at CW Urban. I am still your preferred person to call. My contact is in the packet. But we haven't been downtown for a little bit, and so I have missed all of you. And so I begged, could we please get some stuff back downtown, come back to our roots, and here we are. So you've probably seen us in South Salt Lake, actually, when you look at the map. Millcreek's across the street, South Salt Lake is on the other side of the street. 39th South, 500 East is our project we're selling right now called the Monroe Townhomes. But we do have a community coming in Millcreek, and I have our land developer here to talk a little bit about that because it's so early in the project that I don't even have all the details on that. So I'll invite Chase up to talk about that. But you'll notice in here we do have all of our communities that are even upcoming on a map because there's nothing better than being in the know for our clients. So you've got some insider information there. We have our current Black Label Sales event going on. And so there's information about that. There's QR codes that you can scan all over the place these days, but specifically that will take you to our community information for each community that we have currently. And lastly, and most importantly, we want to thank you for doing business with us. So we are promoting you as icons to play off of the Icon Ski Pass. And so if you sell one of our homes by the end of the year, we will reward you with an Icon Ski Pass if you're not a skier, and you should be. But if you're not, we will do the same value of a Nordstrom gift card or Amazon gift card of your choice. So Chase, will you tell us about the Ivy in Millcreek?
Yeah, so my name is Chase Freebairn, and had the opportunity to work with Millcreek City, like Tara said, on our new Millcreek project. And it's actually just, like she said, down the street from our Monroe project in South Salt Lake, which we like to pretend is actually in Millcreek. And I think sometimes we unofficially market it as Millcreek. It's a sexier zip code. So, but we are excited about the Ivy. It's 20 townhomes for sale, owner occupied, a different product from the Monroe. The Monroe is kind of more modern. The Ivy is a little bit more traditional. It's just kind of tucked away in an existing neighborhood. And so like Mike Winder said earlier, all of the easy stuff that's been developed is gone, long gone. So what's left is kind of these remnant infill parcels that are challenging. And so it's only 20 townhomes, but it is a nice, quiet, secluded area at the end of a private street. 960 East Grape Ivy Way. And we like to have those two projects nearby, and really it's a project that'll have sufficient parking, car charger standard. It'll have it'll have a pergola and fire pit, seating area. It's kind of the opposite of Monroe. Monroe is a large project that's very visible from 39th, and the Ivy is kind of more tucked away. And so there's pros and cons to both, and some people want the better road access, they'd probably pick Monroe, and someone that wants a more quiet, secluded neighborhood would probably pick the Ivy. But yeah, we probably about 1,800 square feet to 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom townhomes, and 2-car garage standard, and it's going to be an exciting product we're excited to market. So we appreciate working with Millcreek City and look forward to working with you. So.
Thanks, Chase. Okay, we now have lunch for you. I'm going to stick around so if you guys have any questions at all. But again, my contact number is, you can scan the QR code, save my contact. I can help you with any CW project, so let me help you. Thanks.